Jack stepped off the shuttle and felt the warm, thick air of Valoria wrap around him. The sky wasn't blue like Earth. It glowed a deep violet, with two suns casting soft golden light. Strange plants swayed slowly in the breeze, their leaves glistening as if they were coated in glass. It was beautiful, but it also made him feel like every step he took was being watched. This was his first diplomatic mission outside of human space. His orders were simple: deliver the Earth Council's message, build trust, don't start any trouble. The problem? No one had told him much about Valorian customs. They had only warned him to be polite. Whatever happens. Jack wasn't sure what whatever happens meant. The landing site was quiet. A few alien figures stood in the distance, their tall, slender bodies framed by long robes and shimmering ornaments. They didn't walk toward him right away. They just stared. Their eyes were large, glowing faintly. Their skin reflected the light in colors that seemed to change with every movement. Jack took a deep breath and started walking toward them. His boots crunched softly on the strange white sand. His translator earpiece hummed to life, ready to process their language. One of them broke from the group. She was different from the others. No robe. Just a flowing wrap of pale blue fabric that left her arms and shoulders bare. Her skin was a rich, iridescent blue, almost glowing, and her hair was like liquid silver, cascading down to her waist. Her eyes locked on his, unblinking, intense. Jack slowed his pace. He guessed she was maybe their greeter or a guide. "Hello," he said softly, his translator repeating the word in Valorian. She didn't answer. Instead, she took a slow step. Toward him, then another. Her movements were fluid, almost like she was gliding over the sand. Jack felt his heartbeat pick up. She stopped only a foot away, so close he could see a faint shimmer on her lips. Before he could say anything else, she leaned in fast. Jack's breath caught in his throat as her mouth pressed against his. It wasn't a quick peck, it was deep. Her lips were soft but firm, her hands resting lightly on his chest as her tongue brushed against his. Jack's eyes went wide. I'm Sumran Ram. Scrambled, what the hell is happening? He wasn't on a date. He was on an official mission. She pulled back slowly, a strange and unreadable smile on her face. Jack stood frozen, his face burning. From behind her, the other Valorians began to cheer, a strange, melodic sound that echoed through the landing site. Some even clapped. Jack's mind was spinning. Did they just celebrate that? The blue-skinned girl spoke in a soft tone. Translator whispered in his ear, "Welcome, traveler. You have honored me." Honored. Jack felt completely lost. On Earth, something like that would mean romance, attraction, maybe even a mistake. But here it seemed normal. More aliens began to step closer, their eyes full of curiosity. Some whispered to each other in their musical language. Jack could feel the weight of their stares. The girl reached out, gently brushing her fingers over his chin, as if inspecting him. "Strong," she murmured. "Warm." Her smile deepened, and she stepped aside. Gesturing for him to follow, Jack moved on autopilot, still trying to process what had just happened. His heart was pounding, his mind running through every possible meaning. Was this some kind of trap? Was she trying to test me? Or was this just how they said hello? As they walked toward the towering crystal-like buildings in the distance, Jack noticed more Valorians watching from balconies and windows. Some waved. Others made the same lip-licking gesture the girl had made before kissing him. A cold realization began to creep into his mind. Whatever just happened wasn't private, and he had no idea what it meant for his mission. The girl glanced at him again, her eyes glimmering with a mix of mischief and something else he couldn't place. "You will meet the council soon," she said. "But first, you will meet everyone." Jack swallowed hard. He had a feeling everyone wasn't just about shaking hands, and deep inside, he knew this mission was going to be far more complicated and far more personal than anything Earth had prepared him for. By the next morning, Jack already felt something was off. I had barely opened his eyes in the guest quarters when he heard faint voices outside the crystal walls. The translator picked up fragments. The human, so bold, kissed her like a mate, followed by soft giggles. He sat up, frowning. Kissed her like a mate. He hadn't kissed anyone well. Technically he had been kissed, but it wasn't his idea. He rubbed his face. Somehow this was already spiraling out of control. When he stepped outside, the stares began immediately. Valorian men gave him curious, almost cautious glances. Valorian women. They looked at him with something else. Not fear, not hostility. Something warmer, playful. The blue-skinned girl from yesterday, Lunar, was nowhere to be seen. Instead, Jack found himself walking toward the market alone. The marketplace was alive with sound-soft music from stringed instruments. The hum of alien voices, the clinking of crystal containers. Stalls overflowed with goods, shimmering fruits, fabrics that shifted color when touched, strange mechanical devices that whirred softly. Jack was halfway through inspecting a bundle of glowing fruit when it happened. A young Valorian woman stepped directly in front of him. Her skin was pale green, her eyes a bright amber. Without a word, she tilted her head and leaned forward slightly, lips parting. Jack took a quick step back. Hi, but she seemed confused by his hesitation. "You greet me?" she asked through the translator. Before he could respond, another woman stepped closer. Then another. In seconds, he was surrounded by a small group of women, each smiling, each making that same lip-licking gesture he had seen yesterday. Jack's stomach tightened. No way. The pale green woman whispered something to the others, and they all laughed softly. The translator caught the words. They said the human kisses better than any Valorian. Jack's jaw nearly dropped. "Wait, what?" Women giggled again, some covering their mouths. One leaned closer and whispered, "Is it true you use your teeth?" Jack felt his face turn red. I think there's been a misunderstanding." But the crowd was growing. Even the market vendors had stopped what they were doing to watch. He saw a few men exchanging puzzled looks, as if they couldn't decide whether to be impressed or concerned. Then came the moment that made his stomach drop. The women began forming an actual line. One by one, they seemed to be waiting for him. He backed up slowly, his hands raised. "I really think we should." The translator didn't help. His words came out in Valorian as, "Must prepare myself before greeting you." The crowd's mood shifted instantly. Gasps, murmurs, a few frowns. In Valorian culture, Jack didn't know it yet, but that sounded like he was rejecting them. A low voice from somewhere in the crowd muttered, "The human insults us." Jack's pulse quickened. Oh, this wasn't just awkward anymore, it was dangerous. Before, anything worse could happen. A familiar voice cut through the noise. "Step back." It was Lunara. She moved through the crowd like she owned the place, her silver hair catching the sunlight. Her gaze swept over the women, then fixed on Jack. "You are causing waves," she said flatly, though there was a flicker of amusement in her eyes. "Do you know what they think of you?" Jack exhaled. "I think I'm starting to figure it out." Lips curved into a slow smile. "They believe you came here too."
Ow!
"Sample every woman in the city."
Ow!
Jack's eyes widened. "What?" And, she added, leaning close enough for only him to hear, "Some of them are hoping it's true." The crowd giggled again as she took his arm and began leading him away. Jack had no idea if she was saving him or just making the rumor worse. Either way, he could feel dozens of eyes on his back, and the whispering didn't stop until they turned the corner, somewhere deep inside. Jack knew this was only the beginning of the trouble. Jack thought yesterday's market scene was bad until today. He had barely taken 3 steps outside the guest quarters when he froze. The street leading toward the council hall was lined with people. No, not people Valorian women. All ages. All dressed in bright, silks and shimmering fabrics. And they weren't just standing around. They were standing in a line. A very organized, very purposeful line. Jack's throat went dry. His instincts screamed this wasn't good. At the far end of the street, a drum beat started slow, steady. The sound carried through the air, matching the rhythm of his heartbeat. The first woman in line stepped forward, smiling warmly. She was tall, with skin that shimmered like molten copper. Without hesitation, she leaned in, lips parting, clearly expecting him to greet her in the Valorian way. Jack stumbled back a step. Listen, the woman paused, her smile fading just a little. Behind her, the line of women shifted impatiently. Lunara appeared from somewhere behind him, her voice low but sharp. Don't refuse. Not in public. Jack shot her a look. You've got to be kidding me. Her silver hair caught the sunlight as she leaned closer. Refusing a greeting here is not just rude, it's a challenge. You do not want to start a challenge ritual. Jack sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. And what happens if I just skip this? Her lips curved in a small, almost wicked smile. You won't skip it? The whole district came to meet you. They think you are impressive. Jack's stomach sank. Because of that first kiss. Lunara tilted her head, as if amused by his cluelessness. You don't understand. At first greeting, he held her shoulders. That is intimate here. They think you claimed her. The first woman stepped forward again, her eyes locking with Jack's. The crowd hushed. The drumbeat continued. Jack forced a weak smile and leaned forward, pressing his lips to hers briefly. No. Tongue this time. Yeah. The crowd reacted with soft murmurs, as if they were judging the performance. The woman pulled back, looking slightly disappointed, and stepped aside. The next woman moved forward instantly. Jack's mind was screaming, I can't do this all the way down the street. Halfway through the line, things got worse. Some of the women started getting bolder hands on his shoulders, fingers brushing his neck, one even tracing a finger along his jaw before kissing him. Every time the crowd reacted, some giggled, some whispered, and he could swear he heard. A man muttered something that the translator rendered as, if he greets the council like that, they'll marry him on the spot. By the time he reached the end of the line, Jack's lips felt numb and his brain was spinning. But the final figure waiting for him wasn't a random citizen, it was an older woman draped in royal violet. Her eyes were sharp, calculating Lunara's. Voice tightened. That is Elder Ivara. Be careful. Jack swallowed hard. If he'd learned anything by now, it was that one wrong move here could be a disaster. The elder stepped forward and smiled in a way that didn't feel like a greeting. At all, it felt like a test. Jack had been kissed by half the city that morning, but standing in front of Elder Ivara felt more dangerous than all of them combined. She was taller than him, her violet ceremonial robes flowing like liquid as she moved, gold bands wrapped around her wrists, and her eyes deep emerald with a faint glow studied him like he was prey that had wandered into her garden. The crowd went silent. Even the steady drumbeat faded away. Jack forced a polite smile. Greetings. The translator echoed his words in Valorian. Ivara stepped closer, slow, deliberate. They say, she began, her voice low and sharp, that you greet our daughters as if they are yours. Jack's mouth opened, but no words came out. That's not what happened. Her gaze didn't soften. And now you stand before me. Yet you have not greeted me. Lunara stiffened beside him. Jack glanced at her, silently pleading for guidance, but she didn't speak. She knew the elder's temper one wrong move here could set the entire council against him. Jack cleared his throat. With respect, Elder, I'm still learning your customs. The translator delivered his words smoothly, but the effect was immediate. Murmurs spread through the crowd. On Valoria, admitting ignorance to an elder wasn't humility, was weakness. Ivara's eyes narrowed. Learning. You've already made claims? Or are you saying the stories are lies? Jack could feel the trap closing. Deny the stories, and he insulted every woman who had greeted him, except them. And he was claiming relationships he didn't mean to. Before he could answer, Ivara's tone turned cold. Do you know what it means, human, to take our greeting? and then withhold it from another. Jack hesitated. No. The crowd's murmur grew louder. Avara's lips curved not in amusement, but in the kind of smile predators where before they strike, it means, she said slowly, that you consider them unworthy, that you choose who is beneath your touch. That, her voice dropped, is an insult to their very soul. Jack's stomach twisted. That's not. Her hand shot up, silencing him. In Valorian law, such insult demands one of two things: public apology or challenge. Jack blinked. Challenge. Lunara's voice was barely a whisper. Combat. Before the council. Jack froze. "You're telling me." The elder stepped closer until her face was inches from his. Her breath was cool, her gaze burning. "If you will not greet me now, you will face me tomorrow in the circle." The crowd erupted, some cheering, some gasping. Jack's heart pounded. He wasn't sure which was worse, kissing an elder in front of the entire city, or fighting one. Lunara leaned toward him, her voice quick and urgent. "Choose carefully. Both paths will change everything." And deep down, Jack knew, no matter what he chose, there was no going back to being just a visiting human. The circle was packed. VELORIANS of every shade and size filled the tiered stone seats, their robes shimmering under the glow of the twin suns. The air thrummed with anticipation's soft chants, the low hum of ceremonial drums, and the metallic ring of weapons being tested. Jack stood in the center, his boots sinking slightly into the fine white sand. He wasn't wearing armors, just the same expedition clothes he'd landed in. Across from him, Elder Avara stepped into the ring. She wasn't holding a sword or spear, but a curved ceremonial staff, inlaid with silver patterns that caught the sunlight like lightning. This wasn't just a fight, it was a performance. The announcer's voice rang out in Valorian, the translator, whispering in Jack's ear. The human refused the greeting. The elder now claims the right to test his worth. Jack's stomach tightened. He didn't want to fight her, but from the way the crowd's eyes burned with expectation, he knew refusing would be worse. Why Vieira moved first, circling him like a predator. "One chance," she said. "Offer me the greeting now, and you walk away." Jack swallowed hard. Elder with respect, but before he could finish, she struck. The staff swept toward his legs, and he barely leaped back in time. The crowd roared. Jack tried to dodge her next swing, but she was fast. The staff's silver tip grazed his arm, leaving a faint streak of light as if it had burned him. "Fight, human." Someone from the crowd shouted. Jack ducked another blow, his heart pounding. He didn't want to hurt her, but he also didn't want to be beaten into the sand in front of half the planet, just as Avara raised her staff for what looked like the final strike. Sudden voice cut through the arena, sharp, commanding. "Enough." The crowd turned. Lunara strode into the circle, her silver hair catching every beam of sunlight. She moved with such confidence that even Avara paused mid-swing. "What is this?" the elder demanded. Lunara didn't answer. Instead, she crossed the space between Jack and the elder in just a few steps. Her hand gripped Jack's collar. Before he could react, before the crowd could even gasp, she pulled him forward and kissed him. Not the quick, polite brush he'd seen in the marketplace. This was deep, deliberate, and charged with meaning. Her fingers curled into the fabric of his shirt. Her lips pressed firmly against his. Jack froze, feeling the strange electric sweetness he'd experienced that first day, but magnified. The crowd erupted not in shock, but in wild, thundering cheers. The drums shifted to a triumphant rhythm. Ivara's eyes narrowed, but she lowered her staff. Lunara pulled back slowly, her gaze locked with Jack's. "The human," she announced loudly, "has given his greeting to me. By Valorian law, he cannot be challenged by another." The elder studied them for a long, tense moment, then gave a short, sharp nod. "So be it. The claim is made." Gasps and whispers swept through the arena. Some sounded pleased, others jealous. Jack stood there, still dazed, as Lunara led him out of the circle. Her grip on his wrist was firm, almost possessive. When they were finally clear of the noise, he managed to find his voice. "What the hell just happened?" Lunara smiled faintly, but there was something dangerous in her eyes. Mine now, human, and soon. The whole city will know it. The moment they stepped out of the roaring arena, Lunara didn't slow down. Her grip on Jack's wrist was unyielding, pulling him through narrow, crystalline corridors that curved and shimmered like they were alive. Jack's voice was tight. You going to tell me why you just announced to an entire stadium that I'm yours? She didn't answer, not yet. Her silver hair swayed as she led him through a set of tall oval doors that sealed shut behind them with a soft hum. The air inside was different, cool, scented faintly with something sweet and sharp. They were in a private chamber, walls glowing faintly like moonlight trapped in glass. Lunara finally released his wrist, turning to face him. Her eyes were sharp, calculating but not unkind. If I hadn't claimed you, she said calmly, Elder Avara would have broken you in the circle. She wouldn't have stopped until you were bleeding into the sand. Jack crossed his arms. So, you kissed me in front of everyone to save me? Her lips curved slightly. To protect you? And to make sure you don't get dragged into another challenge tomorrow? Or the day after? The day after that? Jack frowned. I don't get it. What is it about me that's making everyone line up for these? Greetings. She stepped closer, her tone softer now. You don't understand what your first greeting meant when you touched my shoulders, when you didn't pull away, when you met my eyes the whole time. You gave a signal Valorians read as trust and interest. And because you're human and unknown, rare visitor, that interest becomes amplified. Jack shook his head. So this whole time they thought that you were seeking connection, maybe even a bond. Her eyes held his. On Valoria, the second kiss is not a greeting. It is a promise. Jack blinked. Promise of what? Lunara's voice dropped, almost a whisper. A promise to share life, warmth, and bloodline. Jack took an involuntary step back. Bloodline? She didn't move closer this time. Instead, she tilted her head, studying him like she was weighing his reaction. Now that I've claimed you, no one else can challenge you or greet you in that way. But it also means they'll see you as mine. Jack rubbed the back of his neck. And what if I don't want to be yours? Her expression didn't change, but her voice held a thread of warning. Then you'll have to deal with every woman in Valoria who thinks you've rejected her. And trust me, they won't just pout. Silence hung between them for a moment. Jack finally exhaled. So what now? You parade me around like a trophy, so no one attacks me? Lunara's lips curved into a slow smile. No, human. Now I teach you how to survive here. But as she said it, Jack noticed something in her gaze, something that wasn't entirely about survival, something that made him wonder if protection was the whole truth, or just part of it. The next morning, the city felt different. Jack expected whispers, maybe stares, but instead, everywhere he walked, Valorians stepped aside, bowing their heads slightly as he passed. Some smiled, but not the playful way they had before. This was something else? Respect? Or maybe caution? Lunara walked beside him, her silver hair gleaming in the twin sunlight. She didn't speak much, just offered brief nods to anyone who greeted them. The atmosphere was calm, almost too calm, like a storm had passed. But the air was still charged. Jack couldn't take it anymore. All right, he said under his breath. You've got me under your protection. No more public challenges. So when do I get to leave? Lunara's steps slowed. Leave? She repeated, almost as if tasting the word. Yeah, Jack said. Finish my mission. Deliver Earth's message. Get on my shuttle. And go home. She stopped walking entirely, turning to face him. The look in her eyes was unreadable. You still don't understand, do you? Jack frowned. Understand what? She stepped closer, lowering her voice so only he could hear. When I kissed you in the circle, I didn't just save you, I bound you. Jack blinked. Bound me? What are you talking about? In Valorian law, she said slowly, a public second kiss is an oath of unity. It is recognized by the council, recorded in the archives, and permanent. Jack felt his chest tighten. Permanent. Her expression didn't waver. You are now part of my bloodline. Your victories are mine, your enemies are mine, and your fate is tied to mine. He stared at her, half in disbelief, half in panic. You could have mentioned that before you did it. A faint, amused smile tugged at her lips. You might have hesitated, and hesitation would have gotten you killed. Jack ran a hand through his hair, trying to process it all. So what now? I'm just stuck here. Lunara tilted her head, her voice softening. Not stuck. Chosen. The word hung in the air. Before Jack could respond, a shadow fell over them. He looked up to see a massive Valorian warship drifting low above the city, its hull etched with golden patterns. The crowd around them dropped to their knees, murmuring prayers. Lunara's eyes flicked toward the ship, then back to Jack. They're here for the choosing trials. Every warrior must present their bondmate before the council. And now, she stepped even closer, her voice a whisper against his ear. You're mine to present. Jack's heart pounded. He had come here for diplomacy. Somehow, he had ended up someone's claimed partner in a ritual he didn't even understand. And now, with a warship overhead and the council waiting, he knew his role on Valoria wasn't ending. It was just beginning.